This is class number 9. Class number 9 of our introduction to Aquinas, Thomistic philosophy, and as today's, what did I do with my book? Oh, I wanted to show you. What did I do with it? Anyway, I guess I forgot it. But I'll just have to. I don't need it. I just wanted to show you something. It kind of reinforces the fact that this is an introduction. So the main points then of metaphysics that we've covered so far is act and potency. And then we did a class on hylomorphism, and hylomorphism is the Greek for...
Hylomorphism.
For what?
For matter and formism.
Matter and form, right. And we talked about, last class, the 4 causes. Can you name the 4 causes?
The formal cause.
Formal cause, okay.
The second cause. Second cause is what?
Form and matter.
Material cause, efficient cause, and final cause.
Okay, right. Formal cause being the substance of what a thing is. The material cause is the matter. The efficient cause is the person or thing that made it. And the final cause is why is it made? It answers those 4 questions. What is it? What's it made of? Who made it? And what is it for? Okay? So, now we're going to move into another, these are all really hard rock basic principles of metaphysics. Excuse me. And today we are going to talk about the concept of essence and existence. And this distinction of essence and existence is one of the great contributions of Aquinas to philosophical thought. St. Thomas Aquinas really focused on the importance of existence, the real, what bees, as Father Woodbury would say, the be of a thing, the existence of a thing. We don't really have, I remember Father Buckley saying this, we don't really have a word in English that really delivers what the Latin word for existence is, which is simply ens, be. And Father Woodbury didn't like the word being. He thought it was open to misunderstanding, and he wanted to kind of ignore the normal usage of the English language and use the word be. The thing bees. The thing has be. And so, what we know about essence and existence, could you take a hazard? We haven't studied this yet. But from what we've studied so far, because we're going to see all of these principles all interweave and interlock and support one another, what would you say, what is essence and what is existence?
Don't ask me, I'm a moron.
Okay, well, we haven't covered it yet.
Okay.
But essence and existence, essence is what the thing is, and existence is that it is, the fact that it is. Those are 2 inseparable, they are distinct but inseparable properties, as it were, of everything that is created.
So existence is its be.
Is its be, that's right. Most manuals that I see talking about essence and existence, they start with the essence, that we can know an essence of something, but we might not know that it exists. For example, a Wookiee from Star Wars. Now we know what Wookieess is, But does one really exist? No, it doesn't exist. Okay. So we'll talk more about that later, but most manuals I see, they usually start with that, starting with the fact that we can understand the whatness of a thing before we know. The next question is, well, do they exist? Does a coelacanth exist? Do all these things that we know about?
Oh, so like does a unicorn exist? But we understand.
Right.
We
Does a unicorn?
The essence of a unicorn.
We understand what the essence is, but we don't know if it bees. Okay. Now, Father Buckley, the man who, God love him, who introduced me to Thomistic philosophy, he took an opposite approach, and last night, very late at night, I was rooting around the basement to try and find something down there that I could put on the table that you didn't know what it was. You don't know what it is. I couldn't find anything.
I don't know. I know most of your power tools.
Power tools or any sort of, or a piece of something. But anyway, so here's what he did. He put this twisted metal thingy on the table. And he said, now look at it. So I looked at it. He said, pick it up. And I picked it up. He says, bounce it against your finger. And bounce it against your finger. And he said, what do you conclude about it? What would you conclude about it?
That it is.
It is, right. It is.
I'm learning today.
It bounces. If you bit into it, it would crack your tooth. Okay, it is real. It forces back against you, as it were. If you stepped on it, especially in the middle of the night.
Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah. I stepped on the Mr. Potato Head. Gosh, I almost went through the ceiling. But anyway, in the dark.
2 a.m.
So if you stepped on it in the dark at night, you would know that something bees. It is. All right. So then he said to me, do you know what it is? And I said, I have no idea. But do you recognize that it is? I said, yes, it is. It definitely is. How do you know that? He said, I can see it. I can feel it. Okay. So then
you can hear it when you drop it.
You can hear it when you drop it. Okay. You can throw it through a window, and it'll crash the window. This little thing. So then he stopped me and said, now, so you can see that you can know that something is without knowing the essence of it. You don't know what it is, you just know it is. So this is your first exercise in the fact that existence is separate from essence in that we understand them as separate things, and that they are distinct but inseparable, because you really can't have an essence without an existence, and you really can't have an existence without an essence in any real thing. Okay? Yeah.
Did he tell you what it was afterwards?
Well, no. Here's what he did. He didn't tell me what it was. He pulls out from his bag a can. I don't know if it was a can of... It was a can of something. Some sort of canned food. And he strapped this metal thingy onto it, and he started turning and twisting, and he opened the can. And he said, so, do you know what it is now? And being the brilliant young man that I am, full of sagacity and resource, I said, it's a can opener. And he said, that's correct. How did you know what it was? And I said, because I saw what it did. So we learn the whatness of a thing by what it does. Okay. So the what, it is possible to understand the distinction between essence and existence. And this is a distinction, from what I understand, that Aristotle did not fully come to. He didn't deny it, he just didn't come to this full conclusion. It's really what? What do we see? It is act and potency brought to its conclusion, in a way. It is matter and form. It's an extension and a completion of all this. And that's why, especially with someone like St. Thomas Aquinas, when people say that philosophers are those who just have their head in the clouds or they're not connected to the real world, well, we know there is one philosopher that completely that doesn't apply to at all, and that is St. Thomas Aquinas, because he is steeped in the real. He is steeped in existence. Does it be? So, we know its nature, its essence, its formal cause, as it were. All these things work together by what it is, or by what it does. St. Thomas Aquinas gives the famous man and phoenix demonstration to explain. Am I spelling this right, or is the O before E except after phoenix? How does it work?
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
Okay, so he basically says that the phoenix is a mythical animal, but we can know about it. We know what distinguishes a phoenix from a centaur. What does a phoenix do? What is it known for? Do you remember?
It would fly out of a funeral pyre's flames.
It would immolate itself and then fly out of the ashes. And Dr. Bennett points out that he used that example on purpose because not only is the phoenix, well, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but does the phoenix exist? Can you go to the zoo and see one? Can you go on an African safari and see one? You can't. It doesn't exist, but we know the essence of the phoenix. But Dr. Bennett points out that he used that example very pointedly because phoenix, this thing that immolates itself and rises up out of the ashes, not only does it not exist, but it cannot exist. A thing just can't rise up out of ashes, turn from ashes into a living bird or a living snail or a living anything. So it is impossible for it to exist, but we know the essence of it. And of course, he makes the comparison, or he contrasts, that with man, we know that humanity exists, but you also know real men. You bump into them every day. You hear them. Sometimes you smell them. So they're real. And Aquinas says, thus existence is other than its very essence. He's driving home that these are distinct but inseparable. It's other than its very essence, unless perhaps its quiddity, that's a new word, Latin, quiddity.
Quid is what?
Quiddity is what? The whatness of a thing. And Aquinas uses the term quiddity. Unless in term distinct, the existence is other than its essence, very essence, unless perhaps its quiddity is its very essence. That there is no distinction between essence and existence, and there can only be one such being, and that is God. We're getting ahead of ourselves, but this is where we're going with what we're learning here and the application to natural theology. Okay, and we'll be doing that more in detail. Now, here's another example of the distinction between essence and existence. Frodo. Does he exist?
No.
But you know all about him, right? So here's so Frodo, our little hobbit from Lord of the Rings, we know his essence.
For all the barbarians who don't know about him. Sorry.
So we know his essence, we know his Frodo-ness, but he has no existence. Here's another example. J.R. Tolkien. We know his essence, we know the whatness of him, right? He's the author of Lord of the Rings. But does he have existence?
Not anymore. Yes, but it's kind of decomposing right now.
Not anymore, is the answer. Not anymore. So he participated in existence for a while as a man composed of body and soul, but he died. And his soul is now separate from the body. And in a certain sense, all the souls in heaven, or purgatory, or hell, are still not complete men until they get their bodies back. We weren't made to start out as material and spiritual, and then we chuck the spiritual end and go to heaven and be spiritual forever like the angels, we get our bodies back. That's one of the reasons why we get our bodies back. I believe in the resurrection of the body. We have to be complete again, because that's what we are. So, we can say that J.R. Tolkien, in the land of the living, on Earth, he doesn't exist. So we know the essence of Tolkien, but we can't shake his hand, we can't get his autograph, we can't ask him, why did you do this in your stories and not that?
We can't even look at him.
We can't, well, we'd rather not at this point. And then, of course, we have another name I'll give you, Congressman Ron Paul. Now, Congressman Ron Paul, we know the essence of Ron Paulness. We know who he is and what he is, but does he exist?
Yes.
Right, and we know he exists because we know he's around, and also you met him personally. We've got a picture with you three children.
And of me personally.
And of you personally, with Ron Paul, each one of you personally, and together. Okay, so, distinct, so that gives you, again, the distinction between essence and existence. Dr. Bennett gave a very good example of how something can be, we understand the principle of distinct but inseparable. Okay? Essence and existence in a living being, in a real being of any kind really, are inseparable, but they are distinct. And he said, imagine we had, well, we can do it easy here because we have this big white board, but imagine if you had a white screen, and in the left corner you had a projector that would project pure blue onto the screen. First, you turn out all the lights, and you have a projector on the left corner towards the screen projecting pure blue onto the screen, a pure blue light. And on the opposite corner, you have a projector projecting pure red onto the screen. What would you see on the screen?
You'd see purple.
You would see purple. Okay. Now, the purple. This is an example of distinct but inseparable. Is the red the blue?
No.
And is the blue the red?
No.
They are distinct but inseparable in the composition of the purple color. Okay? Now, this just gives us, because we all need examples we can see, we all need examples that appeal to the imagination, because that's how we work. But while I'm on the topic of Dr. Bennett, he gave an interesting warning about examples in philosophy. And he said, never reject the metaphysical truth if the example appears to be deficient. You might get an example that doesn't quite work, or you don't quite see how it works, and you never reject the metaphysical principle or the metaphysical proof, the philosophical truth, simply because the example might be not up to par. And, as he points out, even St. Thomas Aquinas, as great as he was, some of his examples were a little deficient. Some of them did not fully carry the cargo that they should carry. The example that Dr. Bennett gives is in the fourth way of proving the existence of God. One of the fourth way is proved by gradation. Gradation means throughout the world we see different grades of perfection. We see beauty, more beautiful, most beautiful, or even more beautiful. Food can be
Good.
bad, good, better, best tomato sauce I ever tasted. Okay, so there are grades of perfection. And if there are grades of perfection, we can conclude that there is some greatest perfection that is the source of all other goods, and that being is God. Okay, that's the fourth way. It's the most complicated of the fourth way of the 5 ways, and Dr. Waters says in most manuals he's seen, it's explained badly. Okay, but in any event, St. Thomas Aquinas talks about the fact that that in these grades of perfection and what we see, there is hot and there is hotter, and then he says, and fire is the hottest of all things. Okay? I don't quite know what's hotter than fire, but I'm told that there are elements hotter than fire. Dr. Bennett talks about that, who's well versed in physics. So Aquinas was using the science of his time, and so the example he gave is deficient, but it does not undermine the philosophical truth, the metaphysical truth. So it's always important to remember that, because modern writers will sometimes attack Aquinas, pointing to maybe something that's not correct because he was using the science and the physics of the time, and they'll say, well, then we can't. Well, then we just discount him altogether. That's a cheap shot. It's looking for a little weakness and exploiting it, and never fall for it, because people do that with Aquinas.
Especially people like the left wing.
Yeah, they will confuse a bad example with, whereas, so what are they doing is, it's kind of a cheap shot. What they're doing is they're trying to find a little weakness and then exploiting it to discredit the author. Did you know that St. Thomas Aquinas did the exact opposite? Aquinas always would find his opponent's strongest arguments, and he would attack that. Aquinas never went for cheap debating points. Frequently, what do you mean by frequently? Frequently is a word that can have many meanings. He never did that. He went after, because he was an honest, true scholar, thinker.
And was brilliant enough to attack.
Brilliant, and also always fair to his opponents. But he would never take cheap shots. He always went after their strongest arguments. Okay, so another example of distinct but inseparable. We're talking all within the contents of that essence and existence are distinct but inseparable. And that is our definition of man as a rational animal. Man is a rational animal. Those two terms, rationality, those two components, as it were, rationality and animality, are inseparable. What happens if you take away a man's rationality? You end up with public high school. You end up with
just go that far.
just the animal nature taking over. Okay, animal. And if you take away man's animality, what do you have? You don't have a man. You have a spirit. So
Marley the ghost.
So essence and existence, again, distinct but inseparable. And what Father Vasky points out in his book, I should say too, what I wanted to bring down is St. Thomas Aquinas wrote an entire treatise. I think it's one of the things he did when he was somewhat young, but he was hammering home this distinction, and he wrote this treatise for his fellow Dominicans, and it's still being used to this day. It's called On Being and Essence, on essence and existence. And I have a book downstairs by a Thomistic philosopher, where it's a commentary on St. Thomas Aquinas' Being and Essence treatise. So you get St. Thomas Aquinas' writing, and then you get his commentary and his explanation. Okay. Now we're just talking about these two things, essence and existence. That book is 277 pages. So when I tell you that this is just a highway drive introduction to Thomistic philosophy, I mean it. That's an entire college course, just on this topic alone. So this is the depths and the breadth of philosophy. But right now, we're not concerned with that. We're just getting you familiar with the terminology and the structure. Essence, how do we know the essence of something? What do we use?
Our intellect.
Our intellect. Our intellect is because what can we do? We can abstract. and also we can understand humanity. We can understand triangularity. We can understand, well, I won't say normalcy, because there's not enough examples of that.
There are no examples of that, actually.
Yeah, but we encounter in the real world this pyramid, this triangle, this man. Okay, so that is so the matter is what differentiates and limits. I mean, I'm saying this wrong. I'm going the wrong direction. We understand with the intellect. We understand the nature of the whatness of a thing. But as Father Vasky says, the ising of a thing comes from our judgment. We judge, this is real. We do it instinctively. We don't even think about the fact that we've done it. But it's a judgment. This is real. I see it. I smell it. I hear it. I taste it. It's real. So that's the difference in operation. The essence is the operation of the intellect, and existence is the operation of our judgment. And I think I'm going to stop there.
Okay.
Because he does talk about the fact, well, I'll just say this because this is kind of an introduction to, this is kind of an hors d'oeuvre of what we get in natural theology. That we learned here that in essence, there's nothing in an essence that automatically demands existence. The phoenix, the centaur, what are some other things from
Minotaur.
Greek mythology?
Minotaur, hippocampi.
Yes, all these things, okay? So there's nothing in essence that necessitates existence.
Ooh, a talking statue.
A talking statue, the push me pull you in Dr. Dolittle. They don't exist. So essence and existence are thus a composite. Something has to give the essence its be. Something has to give it existence. And a thing cannot give what it does not have. So therefore there must be some being that is giving being to everything else. Some being that is be by its very nature, and we have be by participation, because up until 1997, you did not
B.
You did not be. So you have being by participation.
And I have beed for 16 years and a day now.
That's right. So essence and existence are composites, and when there is a composite, someone has to put it together, and there has to be a first cause of giving existence. That first cause that is all act, I'm jumping over a lot, but I'm just giving you an hors d'oeuvre. That first cause that is pure act with no potency, that first cause that existence and essence are one, and that is God. And that is one of the ways we come to the knowledge of God through these points that we learn here. I think I have one more comment to make. No, it's just... So just in conclusion, essence is what a thing is, and existence is that thing is. And those two are distinct but inseparable.
Okay.
And that's it for today.
Okay. Thank you, Professor.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and of the Holy Ghost, amen. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Ghost.